But you're asking me about what happened at the age of 14. At the age of 14, the issue is, where do you go to high school? Well, my father, being from a religious background, wanted to send me to a high school in Tel Aviv because by the way, yeah, I was very talented. And very talented means that schools would offer you a scholarship. Anyway, that I have to continue to go to school. My father thought, go to a religious high school where they teach. And my mother said, and she was not as well educated as he was, but I think she was much better educated in the story of life. And she said to him, if you want him to go to a school which is for religious children, then move to a neighborhood where only religious people live. We live in a neighborhood where all of them are secular. You or two or three others are a little religious, more like you, but most of them are about like he, and some of them did send their kids to such a school. And my mother said, no, I don't care about the neighbors. Moshe F will only go to a school with all the other kids who are going to go to the same school with him. So if you want it, move to that neighborhood. Well, the school that my father thought would be good for me to go, and all the neighbors said, and not only this, my teachers from the elementary school, that I should go to the best high schools. Yeah, but we didn't have the money, because best high schools were private schools. Where will the money come from? We didn't have the money. So my father was not lazy. He said, which is the best school to go? And they told him that it's the Gymnasia Herzliya, the most famous gymnasia, the first Hebrew-speaking high school in the world, all subjects in Hebrew, that was started in 1911. You had to pay for it. So where do you get the tuition? So they told my father, go to the man who is heading the corporation that runs this school, and he was also the principal of the whole thing, Moshe, and talk to him. So he made an interview, brought me along, and said, okay, bring your son, let's see what we can do about it. And he gave me tests. He asked me questions in math, you name it, what did you learn from this guy? And I remember saying to him something that he said, where did you get these words? Because I was sitting in school like that. And I remember to the present day. High school was a different world for me, first of all, because you meet people who came from the outskirts. So I met people in Tel Aviv who to the present day are good friends. One of them in Tel Aviv was a Supreme Court justice, and he was in high school with me. And the other one was in my neighborhood, went to the same class that I did, but I was such a brilliant student, and he lived in a more wealthy neighborhood, Givat Rambam, on a hill in a nice house, because his father worked as a chief operating officer for a major company, Yaakov Kedmi. And when I came to his home, my God, I couldn't believe my eyes. And he always told people, he was a good student, but I was better than he was, that I have a private tutor. And people were laughing. And he passed away in 1986, about 4 years ago, and he was a Supreme Court justice. Before high school, you were all in the underground. So, for instance, my father, for instance, had to even go. When I was 14, I already knew how to use weapons. But they wouldn't let us do the job of grown-ups. There were disturbances. Arabs would infiltrate the neighborhood and rob buildings. So there was a water tower. You could go up on the water tower, and they would give you a rifle. We all were in the Haganah from the age of 14. We all started learning how to use sticks to protect yourself. It was a special skill. Don't kill somebody. They'll have a stick. You'll have a stick. It's almost like fencing, but we didn't have swords. We had sticks. And we knew how to navigate. We all were in the underground, so forth. They called it, Gadna, youth platoons, youth battalions, almost a little army in the making when there was no army. And my graduating high school, which was in 1948, the war broke out and they pulled us out the last year from school. I started 1914. I'm sorry, 1944. And they pulled us out in 1948. I started before the war was over. Just at the end of the war, 1944, Second World War, to 1948. And we were pulled out in around March, April, because June, you have to take 48. And we stopped because we were 17 and a half. So they took they gave us a simpler version of the matriculation examinations. Go get killed, you'll get killed anyway. Who cares? Yeah. Many years. I lost many friends. Got in April of 48. I was about 17 and 8 months, and I got out in April of 1950, which was 2 years later. In between, I was in the army.
And what role did they have you in?
Oh, I was a sergeant major, and there was a small cannon, which 20 millimeter. You could actually set it on a tripod on 3 legs, open up, like pull a lever, and the wheels would go up, and flat.
Okay.
And then there was a cannon, which was only 20 millimeters, something like that, to shoot down airplanes, and you could have it on wheels instead of on the 3 legs by lifting a lever, and then you would just hook it to the Jeep in the back, and then you would drive with one is a driver and the other 3 is the team, and I was sometimes the driver, but mostly the one that meant the shooting or putting the magazine on. That's what I did in the army. I was, call it in the artillery, anti-aircraft, shooting aircraft coming in. And we would travel from one side to another wherever the need was with the Jeep, 4 of us, and this little weapon in the back. When we got out from the army, I said I had a plan. They were going to send me to England. I couldn't, so I'll go to America.
Okay.
I had an English teacher that impressed me. She went, and I was to America, oh my God, in the 20s, and she was my English teacher. She didn't have any money, but she said, I managed to somehow live there. I found a job. I was teaching Hebrew in some school. I said, well, I can do that too. Maybe I thought I'll go to the Technion, which I said enroll. So I did. They accepted me, but then I gave them, and I had to pay fees because everybody was there competing. There were many, many geniuses like me, So I said, if I'm going to compete, I'm not going to be. If I'll go to another place, I'll stand out. And I'll learn something else, and I'll be on my own, and I'll be able to fend for myself. Because in the Technion, everybody was in the same boat as I was. And I said, Moshe, you have to make some money. How will you go to America? And 2 of my friends already go, and they tell me California is great. You can work as a gardener or as a Hebrew teacher. That's a great idea for me. Well, they already left. They left in June. I cannot go in June. I don't have any money. But in April, I said, when I heard all their plans, I said, that's what I'll go. They're not as better students than I am. I'm better than they are. They were good students, but not as good as I was by any stretch of an imagination. So what I did is I said, Moshe, people ask you always questions because there were tests. If you want to be promoted to higher rank. So Matt, and I always got the best grades. And some people said, Moshe, I want to go to the Technion, I want to go to university, but I didn't finish high school and I have to finish matriculation, and they will not accept me. And in fact, I finished matriculation even as little as it was early on. So I gave private lessons. I became so much in demand, I made more money than my father.
As a tutor?
Tutor. I was in demand. People came on bicycles all the way from Tel Aviv, waiting in line for me. So I raised the fees, but up to a point, because some of them were my friends, so I helped them. Many of them came here, and without me, they wouldn't have passed this exam. Talking about the high school matriculation.
Yeah.
Anyway, I helped a lot of them, and I made plenty of money to buy the ticket. I even decided to actually take on as a student. Somebody said, she is looking for a tutor, her father, and said they referred me a young woman whose father had an agency, travel agency. And I thought, maybe he'll give me a break for a ticket to America. And son of a gun didn't give me a break. I paid you enough. Then I thought I should have charged him more. But I made enough money to buy the ticket and whatnot, and enough saving for the year in the USA. But I think the most important thing before I left for Israel, really the most important thing is, on the summer of 1950, I was already working, giving lessons, and I was doing well. I have a girlfriend in Tel Aviv, everybody has a girlfriend, and they think one girlfriend, another girlfriend, and a third girlfriend. This one thought maybe she, it's very, very serious, and her father and mother like me very, very much. At any rate, and she's about 2 years younger. It all started how did it? Many of the girls that I actually tutored fell in love with me.
Of course.
And this one, it haunted me, letters and whatnot. And no, seriously, and that's what had happened. Look, That's life. I am with this girlfriend, and she was a nice girl, and she's not alive anymore. And I, with her and a few other friends, we are going to Tel Aviv because we are not in Tel Aviv, and it's about August, and I know the place exactly in Tel Aviv, and I see a bunch of people riding horses, and there was a guy whose name was very well known, and Gordon, and he had a riding school. And on the first horse, who is stopped, sits a woman with hair. I cannot. I'm almost like mesmerized. And I take a look. I say, "Oh my,
You could tell Zach. Zach was
my
the end of the
God,
story.
what a those slanted eyes, the hair. I'm just. Whew, I've never seen such a beautiful woman in my life, and the picture stuck in my head. And of course, the horses go, whew, but every now and then I would remember the image. And can you imagine that this is the year 1950? It's already summer 1950, around June, July, when I'm giving all these lessons, making the money so I can go. My friends already left they got out April and June. They're already going for the first semester in September. August, they're already writing me letters. I don't have the money for that. So I have to continue working, but I am actually constantly thinking of this face. Where is she from? Maybe I should, but anyway, then you continue to do what you have to do, and you have to proceed with the voyage to get to the United States.